the wrong veil. As told by Elena. He lifted the veil and I saw a stranger's face. That's the part one still can't explain, even now, 5 years later, sitting in a boardroom with my name on the wall in gold letters, the part where my heart did something it had no business doing. Something that felt like, oh, there you are. Like recognizing a song you've never heard before. I had just married the wrong man. And God help me, I couldn't look away. Let me start from the beginning. Or what I thought was the beginning. Because the real beginning, I understand now, was much earlier than that wedding car. Much earlier than the veil, the brazier smoke, the red envelopes and someone's grandmother weeping happy tears in the hallway. The real beginning was the cage. My mother built it with love. That's the thing about cages built by people who love you, the bars are so polished, so beautifully made, that you spend years telling yourself it's actually a home. My mother chose my clothes. My university. My major. My friends. And when I was 26 and still hadn't found a husband on my own, because how could I didn't even know who I was on my own, she chose him too. Daniel. Stable job. Good family. Honest face. I met him twice before the wedding. Both times, my mother sat beside me, nodding at everything he said. I smiled. I said the right things. I folded myself into the shape everyone needed me to be. That was what I did. That was all I knew how to do. The wedding morning smelled like hairspray and roses and my mother's anxiety, which has its own particular scent, something between green tea and controlled panic. The makeup artist worked on my face for 2 hours. My veil was pinned so tightly I could feel it pulling at my scalp. Don't lift the veil, my mother said. Not until tonight. And don't take off your shoes. And don't, Mom. I'm just saying. I said nothing. I was very good at saying nothing. The wedding car came. I got in. The door closed. The city started sliding past the windows and I remember thinking, this is it then. This is the life. Not with excitement. Not with dread. Just with the flat, gray acceptance of someone who has been making other people's decisions for so long she's forgotten she was ever supposed to make her own. The car stopped. A man got in beside me. And something happened in my chest that had never happened in the 2 times I'd met Daniel. Something that had no name yet. Something that felt like weather. Like the pressure changing before a storm. He didn't say much. Neither did I. The veil was between us like a curtain between 2 worlds and I sat very still and thought, something is wrong. Not bad wrong. Just wrong. The bridal chamber was dim and warm and smelled like incense and fresh paint. The new apartment. Our new home. His family was outside, I could hear them, the shuffle of feet, the murmur of voices, someone telling someone else to hurry up. He came in. He stood in front of me. He reached for the veil. And when it came up, when I saw his face for the first time, really saw it, without the chaos of the ceremony around us, I understood immediately. The jaw. The eyes. The way he was looking at me like he was also doing math he didn't want to finish. We were not who we were supposed to be to each other. I said, who are you? He said, my name is Marcus. I'm getting married today. My bride's name is Sophia. Silence. The kind that has mass. The kind you could trip over. And then I said, because what else do you say, what else is there, we cannot let anyone find out. Here's what I expected to happen next: panic, shouting, family summoned, humiliation served in front of everyone we knew on the most photographed day of our lives. Here's what actually happened. We talked. His mother was outside the door. I could hear her breathing, practically. The hallway was full of people waiting for a tea ceremony that neither of us knew how to stop without destroying everything. The brazier smoke had soaked into my dress, that particular char I will never forget, that I still sometimes catch on winter air and feel the whole night come rushing back. And this man, this stranger in a suit that fit him perfectly, sat down on the edge of the bed at a respectful distance and said, "What did you study?" I stared at him. "International economics," I said, because it was true and also because I had no idea what else to do. His face changed. "Me too." And just like that, somehow, we were talking. Really talking. The kind of talking I hadn't done in years, maybe ever, where you say the actual thing instead of the acceptable version of the thing. He told me about his mother. I told him about mine. He told me about the life he'd been living inside other people's expectations, and I sat there listening and thinking, I know this. I know exactly this. At some point I said, "You're a grown man. You should have your own opinions." He went quiet. "I know," he said. "Then start having them," I said. I didn't think it was a remarkable thing to say. It seemed obvious to me. But the way he looked at me when I said it, like I'd handed him something he'd been searching his whole life for and didn't know how to shape until just then. That look. I've thought about that look for 5 years. We got through the night. I won't go into details except to say that we cleared the hallway through methods that still make me want to disappear into the floor, and I slipped across the hall to my actual husband's apartment, and I lay in the dark next to a man I didn't know while my mind stayed in that other room. With Marcus. With the stranger who felt like recognition. Daniel was angry. Not at me specifically, at the situation, at his mother, at the performance of a marriage that neither of us had chosen. I understood his anger. I even felt sorry for him, in the distant way you feel sorry for someone trapped in the same cage as you. His mother was worse. She came every day. She had opinions about everything: my cooking, my cleaning, my tone of voice, the way I sat, the way I breathed. She had the absolute certainty of someone who has never once been told no, and she wielded it like a weapon, and Daniel handed her the weapon every single morning by refusing to take it away. "Whatever my mother says, you have to do," he told me once. I looked at him for a long time. Even if she tells me to get on my knees? I said. He didn't answer. That was its own kind of answer. Across the hall, I sometimes heard things. A door. Raised voices. Silences that lasted too long. I told myself it was none of my business. I told myself Marcus was a stranger. I told myself that whatever I'd felt in that dim room on my wedding night was just adrenaline, just shock, just the particular madness of an impossible situation. I was very good at telling myself things. The day I left, his mother said, if an elder tells you to get on your knees, you get on your knees. If an elder tells you to eat filth, you eat filth. That is a child's duty. Something inside me, something that had been bending and bending for 26 years, went very still. And then it stopped bending. I picked up my suitcase. I walked to the door. Daniel grabbed my arm and his mother screamed, and I thought very clearly, I would rather be alone for the rest of my life than spend one more second in this hallway. And then Marcus was there. I don't know where he came from. I don't know what he said. I only know that when I looked at him, really looked at him, in the chaos of that hallway, he looked back like he'd been waiting. Like he'd had his hand on his door this whole time. He put himself between me and Daniel. I turned and walked to the elevator. I did not look back. The elevator doors closed and I cried in a way I hadn't cried since I was a child, the kind of crying that comes from somewhere below language, somewhere below thought. My shoulders shook. My vision went white at the edges. Marcus was there. In the elevator. I don't know when he followed me. He said, "Are you?" I said, "Don't." Asterisk. He said, "Okay." Asterisk. And he just stood there. Didn't try to fix it. Didn't hand me a solution. Just stood beside me in the small metal box while I fell apart, and the floors ticked down, and the doors opened, and I walked out into a city that suddenly felt enormous and terrifying and completely, utterly mine. I called my mother from the street. "I want a divorce," I said. She cried. She threatened. She said I was ungrateful, disrespectful, that I would be a divorcee and no man would ever want me and I would die alone and shame the entire family. I said, "I'll arrange a beautiful funeral for you if you jump. I love you. I'm going anyway." Asterisk. She did not jump. People rarely do. I left Riverton on a Tuesday with one suitcase and $200 and a plan that lived mostly in the margins of notebooks my mother had never read. The plan was, food industry. Beverages first. Understand the core logic. Build a factory. Take it global. The plan was insane. I was 26 and broke and freshly divorced and I had never done a single thing without someone's permission. The plan was the first thing that had ever been entirely mine. The first 6 months in Bayside City, I sold mint water from a cart on the street at 6 a.m. All natural. My own recipe. I stood there in the cold with my hair pulled back and my good shoes ruined and I made enough to cover rent and ingredients and nothing else. I was the happiest I had ever been. Not because it was easy. Because it was mine every frozen morning, every customer, every dollar, mine. No one had arranged it. No one had approved it. No one was nodding beside me. Just me and the cart and the city waking up around me and the slow, extraordinary feeling of becoming myself. I named the company when it was still just me and the cart. Before the factory. Before the investors. Before the gold letters on the wall. I named it Rivera and Cross. His name. My name. I told myself it was just a memory. A tribute to the strangest night of my life. A private joke between me and the universe. I did not examine that lie too closely. 5 years. 5 years of mint water becoming a product line, becoming a factory, becoming a company that showed up in newspapers. 5 years of Bayside City becoming home. 5 years of calling my mother every Sunday until she stopped crying when she heard my voice and started laughing instead. 5 years of becoming, slowly and painfully and joyfully, a person I actually recognized. 5 years of not finding him. I looked. I won't pretend I didn't. I searched his name in the way you search for someone when you don't want to admit you're searching, casually, late at night, with your phone tilted away from no one. I found nothing. He'd left Riverton too. He'd disappeared into the same enormous world I disappeared into. I told myself it was fine. It was fine. The meeting request came on a Tuesday. My assistant said, the CEO of Rivera and Cross wants to discuss distribution channels. He's from Riverton. I went very still. Rivera and Cross. Her name. His name. Or, no. His name. My name. What did you say the company was called? I said. My assistant repeated it. I sat with that for a moment. Told myself it was coincidence. Common names. thousands of companies. Ridiculous to read meaning into a business name. Absolutely ridiculous. Set up the meeting, I said. The boardroom was all glass and afternoon light. I was looking at my notes when the door opened. And I smelled it. Sandalwood and something else, something that had no name, that belonged only to one specific dim room on one specific night 5 years ago, when the veil came up and the world rearranged itself. I looked up. He was already looking at me. 5 years. He was 5 years older and somehow more solid, like he'd grown into himself, like the man I'd met on that wedding night had been a sketch and this was the finished version. Same jaw. Same eyes. The eyes that had looked at me in the elevator like he wanted to say something and couldn't find the shape of it. He found the shape of it now. Long time no see, I said. Because someone had to say something. He said nothing for a long moment. Just looked at me. Then he looked at the logo on my jacket. Then back at my face. Rivera and Cross, he said. My heart did the thing. The same thing it had done in the wedding car, 5 years ago, when a stranger sat beside me and the pressure changed. You named it after us, I said. I named it after a memory, he said. Asterisk of me. Asterisk. Asterisk of you. Asterisk. The meeting lasted 4 hours and covered approximately 15 minutes of business. We talked about everything else. The cart. The $200. The 6 a.m. streets. His own beginning, different from mine but made of the same material, the same stubborn insistence on becoming something real. He told me about the elevator. About standing beside me while I fell apart and not knowing what to say and choosing silence, which turned out to be exactly right. I told him I'd looked for him. He said, asterisk, I looked for you for 5 years. Asterisk. I said, asterisk, you found me. Asterisk. He said, asterisk, you were always findable. I just had to become someone worth finding you. Asterisk. I looked at him across the restaurant table. The waiter had come by 3 times, we'd waved him away without looking up, and I thought about my mother's cage in Daniel's hallway and the cart in the 6 a.m. cold and the gold letters on the wall. Rivera and Cross. Asterisk her name. His name asterisk. All this time, I'd thought I was building a company. Turns out I was building a door. Here's what I know now that I didn't know then. Leaving is not the brave part. I know we talk about it like it is, the suitcase, the slammed door, the walk out while everyone watches. And yes, that takes something. That costs something real. But the brave part is what comes after. The empty city. The $200. The cart in the cold with no audience, no applause, no one to tell you that you're doing the right thing. Just you and the choice you made and the long, quiet work of becoming someone who can live with it. I did that alone. Marcus did that alone. And then, somehow, we ended up in the same city, the same boardroom, with the same name on the wall, his name, my name, woven together in gold, which we had both told ourselves was just a memory. The brazier smoke. The lifted veil. My hands on the edge of that bed like I was bracing for a storm that had already arrived. Who are you? The most honest question I ever asked anyone. And the only answer that ever mattered, the one that took 5 years and 1 city and a cart and a company and a boardroom full of afternoon light to finally arrive at, was this. He was the man who had been answering that question since the moment I asked it. Asterisk, he was laughing now. Across the table. The same warm, unguarded laugh I'd heard through the wall for 6 months and told myself meant nothing, and I realized, sitting in the gold light with my name and his name written on the wall behind us, that I had been listening for that laugh for 5 years without letting myself know why. Asterisk.